Today, we look at two terrifying real-life cave disaster stories that started as expeditions but ended in anguish, fear, and death. An excellent example of what not to do underground is the first occurrence. A group makes it through a nearly catastrophic tumble. However, they go deeper, straight into a geological nightmare, instead of fleeing to safety. The second story takes a terrible turn, culminating in a lethal dive that leads to ultimate betrayal, just when you believe it can't get any worse. As usual, viewers are cautioned to use caution. The incident at Ashford Abyss on January 12, 1991 in northern Montana, 4 seasoned spelunkers, Ethan Black, Trent Ross, Damon King, and Marcus Lowell, met at the foot of the Ashford Abyss. In the world of caving, the vertical cave system is notorious for its severe limestone passages, tight chutes, and steep drops. Beginners should not go there. The team had confidence that morning. Their equipment was cutting edge. They had a good time. However, fundamental safety can be overlooked by even the most experienced travelers. The grave drop, a 24-foot vertical shaft, was their first significant obstacle. Navigating it needed technical rappelling skills. Here, one mistake not only results in harm, but also in immediate death. Trent and Damon, 2 members, used the proper rigging and took their time to fall smoothly. They signaled the others to follow them when they reached the limestone floor. Ethan followed. He was utilizing a figure-8 descender, a popular friction device, but he rigged it badly in his haste or overconfidence. He neglected to weave the rope back through the loop to provide the required friction, which was a crucial step. So as he lowered himself by leaning back, he was unabated. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, the rope moved through the apparatus. Ethan found himself plunging 24 feet straight down onto rocky rock in an instant. As he dropped, wind rushing past his ears and gravity drawing him into death, the walls became blurry. With a terrible thud, Trent and Damon watched helplessly as he crashed into the limestone floor. The twist is that Ethan was still alive. Shaking, stunned, and broken, he managed to get to his feet. No harm to the spine, no internal hemorrhage, only scratches, bruises, and a stunned expression. Yes, a miracle. However, miracles have repercussions. It was obvious that he was traumatized. His hands trembled, his breathing was labored. Reason demanded a retreat. Perhaps too inebriated to disagree, the others agreed with Ethan's insistence that he could go on. It was a poor decision. They ultimately arrived at a renowned section of the Ashford Abyss, known only as the Coffin Bend. After plunging farther and deeper, explorers had to bend their bodies into strange configurations in order to move through the cramped, narrow limestone section. Trent went first, feet first on his belly, navigating the tight twists and alerting the others to their tightness. Damon trailed behind. However, he entered on his back, feet first, which was a crucial error. He was imprisoned as soon as he slid into the passage. Like a vice, the limestone wrapped around his chest. Every breath was more difficult than the last. He made an effort to move. Nothing changed. His lungs filled with panic more quickly than he could release it. It got worse as he strained each muscle. He was actually having his life squeezed out of him by the Coffin Bend. This was no longer exploration, the others soon recognized. It was a rescue. Trent and Marcus risked their freedom to work from both ends. They attempted to move Damon around inch by inch. However, the rock retaliated. Arms were trapped and skin scraped with every movement. They experienced oxygen depletion and cramping in their own limbs. Damon was finally freed after what seemed like hours, and his weary body was pulled out just as he was ready to pass out. Another life would have been lost at the Coffin Bend in just one more minute. One drop, 2 near-death experiences. At that point, reality set in. They started to retreat up the same route they had previously joyfully rappelled down, feeling hollow and shaken. However, the lessons they learned that day would stay with them forever, because deep down, bravery can turn into arrogance, and hubris leads to death. November 19th, 1984, the betrayal of Hollow Spring. There is more to the Texas Hill Country than farms and tumbleweeds. Beyond Millerton, beneath the dirt and brush, is a watery cemetery known as Hollow Spring, a little spring-fed pool that hides one of the most dangerous underwater cave systems in America. That fall evening, 23-year-old Jeremy Voss and his classmate Logan Pierce, who were enrolled in Westridge State University's advanced scuba program, showed up for what was billed as an exciting but illegal dive. They disregarded the county's obvious warning signs which said, "Cave diving prohibited, multiple fatalities." They were both talented. They were both sure. Furthermore, neither of them knew what lay ahead. At approximately 8:45 p.m., they went into the water. Be calm. Keep quiet. As they sunk below the surface, the moonlight glistened above them. However, Jeremy and Logan committed a grave mistake by failing to follow a guideline. That would be like entering a forest without a compass and wearing a blindfold when it comes to underwater cave diving. It is not a choice. It is your lifeline. They arrived at a metal grate that had been put in place to keep out the cave's most hazardous section at a depth of roughly 95 feet. Officials closed it after a diver had died beyond it years before. However, it has been taken off. It was an open road to hell, keeping the regulators in their mouths. They pushed their tanks forward and removed them off their backs as they reached a narrowing tunnel. If all goes according to plan, this approach is effective. It didn't. Jeremy's tank got stuck halfway through the narrow limestone tunnel between two ragged walls. They pulled. They contorted. Nothing was successful. Time was of the essence. They started sharing Logan's tank and buddy breathing. They changed their direction in the narrow channel, passing the regulator back and forth. The second deadly mistake followed. They went off course in the hazy darkness into a blind pit that led nowhere but slanted steeply. Though they discovered nothing but solid rock at the top, it felt like salvation. No way out, no pockets of air, almost no oxygen too. In growing panic, they handed the regulator back and forth. Jeremy then handed it to Logan, and Logan made a decision that would shape his life going forward. Rather than return it, he walked away. In the shaft, he left his buddy behind. Desperate, isolated, choking, yet alive, he plunged downward. He managed to find the correct route and surfaced, crying for assistance and gasping for oxygen. Rescue crews were sent out, but it was already done when they got to Jeremy Voss. The one person he trusted the most betrayed him underwater, and he died alone, stuck in the blind hole. Local newspapers featured headlines such as "Divers Defy Warning, One Drowns in Hollow Spring" on November 20th. The case's experts identified a series of failures. No rules. A safety grating was removed, a serious navigational mistake, and the ensuing heartbreaking betrayal. Jeremy's passing wasn't a singular tragedy. Life had been lost at Hollow Spring before, and more would follow. It's not just the physical hazard that makes cave diving so risky. It's the false sense of security, having the impression that you are in charge until you are not. Concluding remarks. The lesson is the same whether you're swimming in a secret tomb like Hollow Spring or down a vertical tunnel like Ashford Abyss. Errors are not forgiven by nature. Rock resists giving in to fear. How much experience you have is irrelevant to water. And occasionally, the choices we make inside the cave pose a greater risk than the actual cave itself. Be careful, remain astute, and keep in mind that you've already lost the instant you believe you're unbeatable.